Well, let's take a closer look at President Ramaphosa's day at the state capture inquiry. I'm joined by political analyst Prince Mashele. Prince, thank you so much for joining us. I interviewed Reverend Frank Chikane in the last hour, and he said that it was so important and so symbolically crucial to see the president of the country coming forward to speak very openly about state capture. Are you similarly upbeat about our president today?
Yes, thanks, Ali, for inviting me, and good evening to viewers at home. Yes, I am impressed that we have a president who is prepared to subject himself to public scrutiny in the form of sitting before a judge and being questioned. This is unusual all over the world. Particularly in Africa, it is very rare to see a president subjecting himself to a process like this. But secondly, it is important for the president, when he appears on public platforms like this, not to lie. I was very disappointed with his performance. He was economic with the truth. Let me give you an example. He has admitted that he is the one who recommended Brian Molefe to become the CEO of Eskom, although the Guptas were also cooking up their own scheme, as we have learned. But he then claims that he does not remember whether the matter of Brian Molefe becoming CEO of Eskom was discussed at the ANC's deployment committee. I mean, I cannot believe that I could recommend you, Sally, to be CEO of ENCA, and I sit on the committee that selects CEOs of ENCA, and I say I don't remember if you came before my committee. That is very bizarre. He also does not remember whether he was involved in the appointment of the board of Eskom at that time. So quite clearly, this is a president who remembers what he wants to remember. He forgets what he wants to forget. Even with regard to PRASA, for example, he remembers all the meetings. The only detail he forgets is that there was 79 million donation to be given to the ANC. So you can see that he's very selective with regard to the things he remembers and the things that he forgets.
Talk to me about the significance of him not remembering that committee meeting around Brian Molefe. Why would he choose not to remember, as you're suggesting?
It is because it has now surfaced that the Guptas were the real movers of things. In other words, they are the ones who actually appointed Brian Molefe. So he does not want to remember processing Brian Molefe in the ANC's deployment committee, because if he were to remember that, he would appear as a rubber stamper of decisions taken by the Guptas. So he was trying very hard to distance himself from the Guptas, even though he was pressed very hard, and he had to admit that actually he met the Guptas on a number of occasions, although he trivializes the meetings as if he was not part of their scheming. I suspect that he was part of their scheming.
What makes you think that?
I mean, look at the meetings he has had with them. He has met them in Luthuli House. Why was he meeting the Guptas in Luthuli House in the first place, if it was not part of their scheming? Why did he go to such a meeting? If he did not want to have anything to do with them, number one, he would have refused when somebody said, Deputy President, come to Luthuli House and meet the Guptas. Surely he has met a number of business people, and by the time he was meeting the Guptas, it was very clear that they had been doing shenanigans to influence the state. In fact, the evidence by the complaint by Fikile Mbalula that they had told him that he was going to be appointed cabinet minister. And it is alleged that, by the way, Fikile Mbalula made this revelation in an NEC meeting of the ANC. So he already knew that what these guys were up to. And I think that he was playing along as part of option 5 of the options that he had on the table.
So this is interesting, these options that he had. And option 5, of course, was to stay, play the long game, and to try and fix things from within, to root out corruption from within. And it does seem, you know, that his strategy paid off to a certain extent. He's now president of the country. He gave a laundry list of the things that he's done to create interventions against state capture, the NDPP appointments, the Nugent Commission, you know, fixing SARS, fixing the PIC, bringing state security within his office. Do you think that while he may have known more, as you say, than he's told us about what might have been going on, that his long strategy, his long game strategy was perhaps the right one?
It was a right strategy for him as a biographical project. In other words, he wanted his CV to record that he was once South Africa's president. He didn't care about the state of the nation. All the things that he mentions that he has done, by the way, have not left South Africa in a better shape. Look at the South African economy today. It is ravaged. Unemployment, it is the highest as we speak. Look at state-owned companies, Eskom. Has Eskom been fixed? No. We're still battling with load shedding as we speak. Look at the whole security cluster, by the way. We had a mini civil war recently. Quite clearly was not in control of the security cluster. So, yes, he mentioned things that he has done, but they have not been results for South Africa. He has benefited in the sense that he's now sitting in the Union building as president. But if you look at our country, it's in a terrible shape. And by the way, Sally, this is the man who stood in parliament praising Jacob Zuma. I remember I was one of those who organized Zuma Must Fall campaigns, who were in parliament, outside parliament. He was inside parliament defending Jacob Zuma, that Jacob Zuma must not be removed. So we're not dealing with a man here who was not involved in the mess. He was involved. Hence his selective remembering and his selective forgetting.
Tell me, Prince Mashele, tomorrow he's back. What are the big questions, in your view, that he still needs to answer tomorrow?
Well, I don't think that there are big questions remaining. He has made sweeping acknowledgements that the ANC, his party, at some point abdicated its responsibility to govern South Africa. And the results we can see. In other words, every mess that has taken place over the past 12 years, 13 years, it's covered under such an acknowledgement. So it doesn't matter. You can get into detail about this and the other. The fact is, the generalized state of collapse in South Africa was facilitated by the African National Congress abdicating its responsibility to govern, number one. Number two, he has acknowledged that he was part of the leadership of the African National Congress when all of that was happening. So the details don't matter. What we know is that the ugly picture we have in our country is due to the acknowledgement that he has made. So whether he goes back to the commission tomorrow or he doesn't, I expect him to be as evasive as he was today, remembering and forgetting as he chooses.
Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, political analyst Prince Mashele there.